Unit 6.4. In the previous video, I think I had an error here saying in when it should have been is. Account is not null. So what we're going to do in 6.4, last unit in Unit 6, is we will be developing algorithms using arrays. And we're going to write some code to create, traverse, manipulate elements in an array using index loops or for each loops. Every method has a precondition and a postcondition, so you could go ahead and read those, like the value is not null and contains non-zero integers. Precondition, postcondition returns a sum. So we're going to dig right in. First one is the sum. I want to find the sum of all the values in this thing called values, and I'm going to use a for each loop. So for each value in values, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to find the sum. So I need a variable called sum. So let me just make a sum variable and make it equal to 0. Then I'm going to do sum plus equal the value. Then I'm going to return the sum. All right, there we have it. For every value, integer in the list of values here, see, this is the array, add them up, return the sum. Average, same thing here, not null. Well, since the average needs a sum, why don't I just call this guy, right? So let me do that. Double sum equals, and that's not double. And I need a double here because I'm sending back a double, so I'm just going to take a double to begin with. So I'm going to return the sum divided by the total length, and once the sum is a double, then I'll be fine. So now I'm just going to call sum. I'm going to put in values. So right here, this values goes in, it calculates the sum, then I'm going to return the average by doing the sum divided by values, that length. Okay, now we're going to do median. The median, how do I find the guy in the middle of this set? Well, the data needs to be sorted, but it says here the precondition is the values need to remain unchanged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a deep copy. So how do I make a deep copy? For int I equals to 0, I less than values dot length, I plus plus. I simply want to copy every value in values into a new array. So let me call it temp. You can see what I did here. I simply created an array called temp using the same length as values, the total number of integers in values being used here to create this temp. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say temp at I is going to be the same as values at I. So deep copy is the actual copy of all the elements from this guy values to this guy temp. Reason, I want to keep this guy unchanged, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to make a deep copy. Yes, of course, wasting a little space here, but I do have a separate array to work with the temp. So I'm going to say arrays dot sort, and I'm going to sort the temp, not the values. So right now, this is a sorted array, the temp, but the values remain unchanged simply because of this deep copy. So now that I have this value here, I should say value, but values all sorted in the temp, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to find the median, which is the guy in the middle. Now, this is important, the size, right? Like if this thing is odd, the value is right in the middle. But if it's even, I want the two values in the middle to take the average of them. So if the size of this, the length, mod 2 is 0, it's even, I'm going to do something there. Otherwise, I'm going to do something else. So what I want to do here is I want to return the value if it's even, being the average, and I want to return the middle one if it's odd. So, and mod 2 being 0 is even. So let's say it's odd. I'm doing that one first. I want to return the guy in the middle. So it's going to be temp, and I'm looking at the value of temp dot length divided by 2. So let's just make a little quick idea here. So let's say we had 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is when it's even. We have 4 things. Obviously, when it's odd, we just look in the middle. But what happens when it's even? When it's even, and let's say 4 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, we got to send back the average of 2 and 3. Well, let's check this out. So the length is 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if I do 4 divided by 2, I'm going to get 2. 0, 1, 2. That'll get me to this guy. So the next one I want is the one right before. Okay, so we're going to do dot length divided by 2 to get this one, subtract 1 to get this one, and then find the average of those two. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me make a variable, call it sum first. So I am going to take this value, okay, in our example up here, that will be the 3, and then I'm going to add it to this value but minus 1. And in our example up here, that will be the 2. Okay, I made an int here. I want a double, so I'm going to be real careful here. I got to make this a double. Then I'm going to return the sum divided by 2. And that is my median. Okay? Deep copy, very important to make sure that I don't change these values here. And then I sort the temp, okay, the one that I copied, wasting a little space there. And then I work on my temp. Okay, so values was never changed. All right, next one is highest balance. So we have these bank accounts, not null, we actually have accounts in there. So we want to find the highest balance. So let's do double highest balance. I'm going to make it 0. Then I'm going to return it. And I know at this point you're saying, well, you didn't do anything, you just can't return it. I know, I'm just kind of doing the introduction and the conclusion. Actually, you know what? It wants the bank account, not the highest balance. So let's see, you want to return a bank account. So let me go ahead and make a bank account. Okay, so I'm making a bank account here. I'm going to use the default constructor. And I use the default constructor because I just want to send back the account with the highest balance. So my move now is to go ahead and look through this list, and every time I find an account with a higher balance than the highest balance, I keep updating that highest balance, and I also keep updating the account. And when the loop's over, the account with the highest balance will be returned. So we could write a for each loop for this, but instead of we could write the for each loop, or we could write a index loop. So for each bank account, and then we call it account. In accounts, you realize I'm keep doing the singular and the plural here. Okay. If the account that I'm looking at dot get me your balance is greater than the highest balance, well, two things are going to happen here. I'm going to update the highest balance. It's going to be this guy. And I'm going to update the account. Right? So every time you find one with a higher balance, The highest balance is updated. The account out here is updated. When this loop is all finished, what I'm returning here is the account with the highest balance. Okay, let's move on, have some more. Well, the ones down here already wrote them, so we'll just take a quick peek as to what they're asking and what the solution looked like. The precondition account is not null. You could go ahead and read these, make sure. So this one wants the customers living in a particular city. So it has city is written in the correct form. So we have this precondition here, so we don't have to worry about it. So it starts with an uppercase letter followed by lowercase letter. So appropriate, the right way to spell the city. Returns the first 5 accounts of customers living in this city. Now, if there aren't any, we're going to have some nulls. So you can have either null or some combination of nulls and customers. So what we do, we make a bank account array that holds 5. I have an integer called j here, and j is going to be used to update this. So we're going to loop over the accounts, all of them, and these accounts, we're going from 0 to length, of course, and then what we do is we say whenever j gets to 5, that means we found 5 of them, stop the loop by breaking. Otherwise, keep looking. So look into the account at position I, get the address, and see if it contains this city. If it does, we're going to do 2 things. Update the accounts, this one, trying to get 5, and update the j so we could move on to the next spot. So the first time the 0 spot will be updated, j goes to 1, so the next time we come back in the loop, if we do find 1, we're going to be putting it in the first spot. You shouldn't say first, but the 1 spot, which is actually the second. So once we have finished with this loop, we're going to have a combination of accounts in here that people living in this city, or we end up with nulls or some combination of nulls and some people in there. And of course, we return it at the end. Quite similar to the one we did before. With just one little caveat, we're only looking for 5, not all. All right, so now we come down and we have another one here. It says account is not null again. City is written in the correct form again. And what we're trying to do here is change the city. So we have this change city from city A to city B, and it looks very similar to this, except when we do find that you contain this, we go ahead and make the change. So we have an address here. We get the address. We replace all the city A with city B, and then we call the setter on the particular account at I, update the account, okay, so that we could store it, and increment j. So everything here looks the same as the one before, except we're just changing the address. Instead of looking for a particular city, we also go ahead and change it. All right, so that's the methods that we have. You could see there is a pattern going on here. We can use index loop. We can use for each loops as appropriately as needed. This is all about algorithms. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a quick recap. Deep copy, big deal. Remember, shallow copy. If you check unit 2, you would see this as well, mentioned with a different topic, but same idea. If I made an int b, let's say, and I made it values, it's a copy, but it's a shallow one. Okay, with this copy here, if I went ahead and say arrays.sort b, if I did that, what would happen here is this arrays.sort b would also sort values. Okay, so remember, shallow copy shares the same data. So b and values now point to the same list of values. So if I update b, I update values, and update values, I update b. Not true in a deep copy. A deep copy, if I update the temp, has no effect on values. Values remain unchanged. So I'm going to comment this out. just leave this here as something to look at. Okay, there's such a thing as a shallow copy. Got to be really careful when you're copying and knowing exactly what you're trying to do. We also had the average. I like these two because look what happened here. This average needs a sum, but the sum was above. Use the methods that were already created to help write a new one. Much shorter, much easier. 6.4, developing algorithms using arrays. That brings us to the end of 6.4.